Well, good morning, Idumea. That sounds a little bit like the Good Morning Vietnam from Robin Williams, but a whole lot less enthusiastic. I've got news, and that's what we're going to do this as. So, I'm going to do this a little bit like Robin Williams did the news broadcast in Good Morning Vietnam. I'm going to cover several topics, what I've been up to the last couple of weeks, including the website, the new website here, and some other events that have gone on, very relative to the unveiling of Mormonism and its true nature as a microcosm of a control mechanism in our society. So let's check it out. We've had some really good comments too that I wanted to address from some recent videos. And well, not even all of them are super recent, but the comments are recent. And you know, we've got the best commenters here. We just do. We've got some really smart people, and some of them sure write a lot better than I do. Anyway, that's just the way it is. So let me just start off. You know, that good morning Idumea, if you don't know what Idumea is, well, basically this represents exactly, it's another type of things within the religious cult manipulation of our society. Idumea, typical Jewish Zionism. So what we have there in the Old Testament, we find there's a particular group of people, an area called like Idumea. Don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. And so basically they don't follow the Jewish God, Mr. Tetragrammaton himself, YHWH, or Yahweh sometimes. So they're bad, right? Because, you know, Jewish Zionism is all about being not inclusive. We'll include them like in, you know, sacrifices to Yahweh, that kind of a thing. Or we'll just include them in a local massacre when we kill the Midianites or the Hittites or the, you know, Ammonites or whatever kind of ites. Like with Joseph Smith carried it into the Book of Mormon when we got the Nephites and the Lamanites and the Hermaphrodites. Oh, no, that's more modern. Okay, so if we looked it up in the LDS Dictionary, which I haven't done in several years, Bible Dictionary there in your scriptures, you'd probably find something along the lines of Idumea, basically therefore being morphed into a word that represents the world, that which is worldly, pagan, evil, Canaanitish, you know, everything that's I almost slipped there. Messed up. You know, it's been a rough weekend. That's what Idumea represents, and of course, as Mormons, we are taught that we are holy and special, even if holy probably derives from a word, you know, somewhere down there in the genealogy and the formation of language, as probably relating to the sun. Of course, the sun is pure light, and it's the light of Christ, even if Christ didn't even exist. But that's okay. He was invented later by the Holy Roman Empire to promote their system of control more effectively, especially in helping to, you know, calm down those Zionist Jews. They are problematic. They really are. They really were then. And so that's why we had the four Gospels, you know, and then just backdated the stories, put some guys in there with their, you know, story pen names, you know, characters of the story, to be writing the stories after they would be dead already. I mean, people only lived till they're like 50 years old back then, but that's okay. It's a practice we've long had. It's called rewriting history. Joseph Smith was, you know, he was learning how to do it. I think he drank too much. He just, you know, when you screw up in the next verse, it's kind of sad. Guys that did the New Testament were a little more on the ball. Grandma would have been proud. You're on the ball. Well, anyway, we'll get to our Zango report later. In the meantime, let's get back to story number one. So, we're actually looking at a frame of one of the recent videos uploaded, which happened to be about one of the pages found on the Mormon Truth Videos Gospel Topics Hub. It's located on the subdomain of Weebly, so it's .weebly.com. gmail.com. Like I said, that way if I keep it free, maybe it can be eternal and not be tied into any financial problems I do or could have in the future. So there's Joseph Smith checking out some angels, some kind of, you know, I love that that one piece of material that I used, probably from someone else. Shows the picture of the golden plates and, you know, the guy's checking it out with the angel, and it says, Mormon artists painting shit that never happened since 1820. Okay, so we're gonna go here into the video, and in that particular video, because I'm looking at the video description, and so since I got kind of a long name right there for now, and you know, maybe not coming up on all the search engines yet, I'm throwing in the link here in the video descriptions, at least to the webpage. So let's do it. This is a learn how it's done. Let's go with Puffin. Puffin is the best browser, in my opinion. Probably owned by the Illuminati, but let's not worry about it. Okay, look at that. They said send report, it failed, but it succeeded. So they even lie about their lies. So I'm looking into this in vertical mode right now. So this is not the desktop mode, but this is page number 1. And we've already done something on that. So we're going to drop down to the one I just popped in here. And this is called The Evolving Theology of the Eternal Gods. Yes, I realize that's an oxymoron. All right. Here we go. So I'm not gonna read the whole thing for us right now for all you people that love videos, because that's the way, it's the lazy man's way to information. You can have popcorn and drink a beer while you're learning about Mormonism. Kind of reminds me of when I was down way south and we wandered into some guy's movie theater who was pushing his new gig, and he said, hey, we're even open on Sundays, we're doing church, we'll have like the Crystal Cathedral, you can bring a beer to church, dude, can you beat that? And I was like, isn't that sacrilegious? You know, I don't know, maybe Mormonism was so deeply ingrained in me that even as I was getting ready to say, this is a load of Kurlom, you know, colon waste, somehow I just didn't feel good about it. The programming runs deep. The force runs deep in my family, let me tell you. Speaking of family, we had some major family events. And some of you will be proud of me, and some of you people may be deeply offended. I don't want to offend you people, you good Christian people who just haven't quite deconstructed the way this is done to the point where it screws up your belief system too. I mean, Mormonism is easy to deconstruct unless you've been mind controlled, which is part of the program, so that's why they still have members in the church. But Joseph Smith left way too many mistakes. You just can't write scripture when you're fucked up. Oops, shit, oh God. Can't believe I did that. I did that in front of my TBM son and his children when the whole thing he requested was, at the funeral, please don't F up and use that F-bomb in front of my children. But somehow, me, the bringer of Mormonism into their lives, is, I guess it's just, I don't know. It's just ironic that I was the one that screwed up first. So they had a bunch of people try to take over this funeral for my dad and bring all the glory to the religion that he got basically roped into to keep his wife, who was searching for truth, happy. And so, like they do in every organization, they manipulate everyone else's tragedy to be their gain for the corporation. Just kind of like the way, you know, like with hurricanes in Houston, the Mormon church sends all the people in to do free labor, and they send in a few $1 million worth of help, and then beg for a few $100 million worth more from their members and get free publicity, all on the backs of the parishioners. You see how that works? It always works for the advantage of the corporate masters. And that is what I wanted to look at in some of the comments that were just super astute. Oh, did I mention that I walked in there and gave the one finger salute with both fingers to the people that were doing that sort of a thing. So, sorry Christians, once again, no offense. You know, we love you too. I don't hate people just because they haven't deconstructed things far enough back to see how the Holy Roman Empire created Christianity on top of Judaism, which is the same type of control mechanism to screw over everybody at the bottom and have the bastards at the top doing everything they want, parasiting off of you. So, if I'm allowed to vacillate just a little bit here, here's all, you know, so I wrote in this this webpage on the evolving LDS theology. I don't know, I think a pretty good little rant there. Introduction to several subjects relating to that, you know, Joseph Smith's changing Godhead and various other doctrines that have changed, the adoption of Emanuel Swedenborg's doctrines, you know, the 3 degrees of glory, premortal existence, all that kind of stuff. You know, not having to stay in hell forever, the kind of stuff that the Book of Mormon taught, which teaches Christianity, and showing the difference between that and the Swedenborgian doctrines, which I actually like better. I like the Luciferian doctrines and the Swedenborgian doctrines progression. That's all good. I love it. Only problem, it isn't any truer than the, you know, Christian fables that we've got. So basically, sorry people, they're all made to basically parasite off you and control you and make you to be patriotic. So it's all about God, family, and country in the end. Serve your government, especially when they want to go to war, because it's really gosh darn profitable. Okay, we show how that works in the corporate governance videos, and that really ties a lot of this stuff together. In the end, it all ties together to, through corporate governance being ruled by members of the occult who are heads of these secret and secretive societies, which actually tend to be the heads of almost all of the religions. So all these holy dudes like Thomas, you know, Spencer Turd Burglar, who just bit the dust in another news bleep there, going to his ascended masters of Freemasonry, or the holy prophets of Mormonism to obtain his godhood, receive his celestial crown, and head back, you know, get ready to head to Kolob, near Kolob, on the unnamed planet near Kolob. For all you Kolobian star children that actually still believe that stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if I get a comment saying he'd been blood atoned in a satanic ceremony underneath the Salt Lake Temple, but I'm not going to say that. You never know. I think they took care of that with his wife or something, according to David Norman, one of our commenters. But let's get to some really recent stuff here that I like. So here's a bunch of videos that deal with issues that have changed, you know, what Mormons believe about the Godhead, the name of the church, what Mormons believe about what happens after you die, what Mormons believe about people with tans, you know. No, Mormons believe whatever they're told to believe. That's the problem. And that keeps changing. And it all comes from the eternal God who doesn't change. And so that's really the theme of what this particular webpage is about, because what we find in the Book of Mormon is that God is unchanging, and God would cease to be God if he didn't do exactly what he's supposed to do. And if you look at the facts, well, the contradictions that occur as the doctrine changes, as we become PC or whatever the hell else it is to make the church corporation profitable, God contradicts himself, so he can't be God, according to the dogma that is used to create the claims of authority that the brethren have. They violate their own terms. So check out this webpage. And like I said, one of the main purposes of this is to give us some sort of organization about particular doctrines within Mormonism under, you know, one location, in addition to or accompanied by written material, some links, and and resources and references that are kind of there on a maybe a quicker basis so that you can go to the information along with these that allow you to understand what the real picture is and not get sucked down by those guys at Fair Mormon like Scott Gordon that we took apart in that recent set of 5 videos where he was trying to pull the Masonic Temple apologetics gig. All right, let's hit some comments here. All right, we got really so many really good comments here very recently. So I just want to let everybody know I appreciate these thoughtful comments. They're really good. And I guess I want to say something at this point, which is the way I see things now is that the world is structured in pyramidal fashion, and most of us are at the bottom, and those who manipulate are at the top. They're at the top of religious organizations. They're at the top of everything. Banking, what we call education, which is more like indoctrination with some education. Basically anything and everything. Politics, whatever. And the massive corporations that we call, cities, counties, states, pension funds, and countries, along with regulatory agencies, private armies, police forces. All those kinds of things can be documented using things like the comprehensive annual financial reports, that sort of a thing. And when you actually see the puzzle pieces, things become a lot more clear. So when we look at the media, whether it's media on television, whether it's News Corp or CNN, MSNBC, Telemundo, or La Iglesia de Jesucristo de los Santos de las Últimas Días, or all along the Watchtower, they're all using the same type of programming methodology with some variances in the dogma. And they utilize what's called the Hegelian dialectic to divide and conquer and pit people against each other by giving you portions of truth, and then putting a spin on it to pit you against each other. That's why we have Republicans and Democrats, And when you look at the top, top guys in all these parties are members of basic of NGOs like the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers, Trilateralists, the Atlantic Council, the Aspen Group. Yeah, I could go on and on about those, or they're members of, secretive societies. They're involved in Freemasonry, Zionism, hooked up with the ADL, whatever. Our heads of religious groups, and they all work together. That's why when we have a war, brewing, we've always got a war brewing now. You've got patriotism being fomented. It's all about God, family, and country, and you've got the religious leaders promoting that sort of a thing. That way, we'll trust in people like George Bush and Dick Cheney, or even, Obama. Nobody trusts in Trump. No woman trusts in Trump, I would suppose. At any rate, we get a spin and are put against each other, and religions do that, and religions are all about, we're the good guys going to heaven, and everybody else is a piece of crap going to hell. That's the way we find it in the Bible, and that's the way we find it in modern-day Christianity. And, in Mormonism, that's really the way that it came out in the Book of Mormon. 1 Nephi chapter 13 and 14 says, everybody else is a piece of crap because they're controlled by the Catholic Church. Which is, the Catholic Church is a piece of crap, but everybody else is just a victim. Whether you're a victim of the Pope or the priest, it doesn't matter, or the Black Pope, as an MSOM, as having fun was bringing up the topic of in a comment here today. So anyway, not everybody sees things the same way, or not everybody's had things unveiled as much as some of us have. And I'm I don't know everything. When Pigs Fly is probably like the most most knowledgeable person that comments here on a lot of the occult issues and how this ties in with corporate governance. So not everybody knows this. Not all you Christians realize you're being manipulated too. It's not just the Mormons and the J-Dubs and the Scientologists and the Moonies and the Seventh-day Adventist people. The whole Roman thing was just done better because they had people that understood what was in the Old Testament, so they could write stuff, prophecies and doctrine and things into their stories to make the New Testament look like it's fulfilling prophecy. But if you understand that it's an allegory of Titus Flavius, that Jesus is an allegorical representation of Titus Flavius, and you see the battles of Titus Flavius against the Jews, and you look at the locations and the order, you'll find the same damn thing happens with Jesus. He goes to the same places, in the same order, everything's allegorical, it's all sun god stuff. They're transferring Apollo to Jesus. Sorry, people. The truth is not always fun. So, I don't always tell the whole thing because it kind of is depressing, actually. I don't want to destroy everyone's hope completely, just enough of it to wipe out some of your indentured servitude. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at this comment that's basically from a Christian perspective. And once again, we know that I'm kind of over the whole Christian thing, but that doesn't mean that I hate people that haven't deconstructed past that point. So this person brings up some interesting points. The Embrew? Okay, I don't know. Anybody that I mispronounce your handle, please forgive me. I know not what I do when I do that. Okay. Interesting that the Mormon Church claims that they have the fullness of the gospel that was lost, perverted, hidden by Satan, etc., like I find in 1 Nephi chapter 13, like I was just mentioning. But in truth, the fullness of the gospel is simple and also is promised to never be lost, perverted, or hidden, which is Jesus is the only way. Okay, so this person's bought into the whole Jesus thing. That's okay for now. Men like Joseph Smith claim that they know, which is exactly what John 10:1 says, saying, Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that entereth in not by the door of the sheepfold climbeth up by some other way, and is a thief and a robber. Those Masonic roots showing strong with this idea of earning different degrees of glory based on secret handshakes and passwords instead of faith. Well, okay, that's okay. They're not based on secret handshakes. Secret handshakes are part of the process. That isn't what it's based on. But the earning different degrees is actually a cool thing. That's, hey, the Boy Scouts have it. Of course, they're screwed up too. But, progression is a cool Luciferian mystery religion doctrine. I like it. Maybe you don't, because I realize you're programmed into the whole Jesus thing, and all you need is Jesus, baby. Well, it's all about brand identity in religion, and Christianity is big on that. The Catholic people, church, their authorities were burning people at the stake, and Mormonism excommunicates you into outer darkness forever. The worst thing you can do as a Mormon is to be, an anti-Mormon. You're worse than Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Fidel Castro. And don't even talk bad about Hugo Chavez, because at least he was against George Bush. Okay, so they don't really have the full picture, but this person's given a nice comment, and I do appreciate it. This isn't limited to somebody that thinks you don't have to know everything to participate. I don't know everything. We can learn from each other, and we can like each other even if we don't believe everything the same. And we don't have to hate people because they're not part of our same cult, whether that cult is Mormonism or Christianity or Islam. The God of Masonry and Mormonism is first trying to climb your way into heaven. Well, yeah, I think, I like that doctrine. Unfortunately, I don't think any of it's necessarily true. And sure as heck, the guy selling the tickets, to get in the gates of heaven for 10% of your income in exchange for secret handshakes and a load of BS that tells you that your family can be together forever if you obey whatever they say and clean the chapel and serve missions and program your family to go to 3-hour blocks of church and send your children to seminary so they can be prepped to go into further mind control in the missionary program. It's all a system of keeping people controlled and profitable for the extremely evil people at the top who parade as being wonderful when they're not. All right. To continue with this, what really is frustrating with Mormonism is that on one side they say it's all about Jesus to look mainstream, very accurate, very accurate on your comment, in my opinion there, and appealing to the naive people in the world. Yep, that's true. But then, on the other hand, they very clearly need more than Jesus. Yeah, that's true. Which is the stuff that becomes very cultish and really puts the hooks into Mormons. Very true. I remember the first year of being a member. It seemed like a normal biblical teaching. But once they get a person committed for a year and then put them through the temple, all the indoctrination really gets going, and it's coupled with fear and pressure. Very, very true. So leaving it is very, very hard. That's right. Just like the J-Dubs tell us. You're gonna leave? Well, you're gonna leave without your family. Doctrinally, they'll tell you that for eternity, and they'll make that happen in time, too, Tell your wife, you need a worthy priesthood man to take you to the celestial kingdom. You better just dump this sucker. He's worthless now. I mean, that's the doctrine. Sorry, folks. Brigham taught it very, very well, and it still carries through. You're not going to hear that on the podium, but they're a little more covert with it. They will say milk before meat, which really means give them truth and then brainwash them. Well, give a little portion of truth. Of course, this guy thinks, or girl, or this person thinks that Christianity is true, which is, like I said, that's where they're at right now. And then brainwash them harder is what I would say. What's interesting, in other words, you don't want to freak them out at the beginning, What's interesting is that this cult has become pretty popular worldwide and successful. Okay, this person goes on and says, I believe it's a testament to a couple of things. Jesus really is the way, truth, and the life, and thus people feel that connection in Mormonism. Okay, there are familiar spirits at work that work on Mormons and keep them caught up in a lie. A lot of you ex-Mos are going to say, nah, that's just some kind of BS. But actually, I agree with that kind of a thing. I personally believe and have observed, which is why I believe, that there are spiritual experiences that are not emotionally stimulated or psychologically induced that people have in various religions. I think we can all agree that people say that they've got spiritual experiences in various religions. But most people in the ex-Mo community are going to think it's all psychologically induced. And some of it is. Some of it is. But some of it isn't. I've noticed that people are actually manipulated into various religions and churches. And I was. And as I look back, I can see how that happened, and it wasn't emotionally induced. I've seen stuff that I've seen stuff from that unseen world happen, whether it's visible or not. The effects are visible, and not everybody sees that. And we got commenters, people that are involved in participating in here that have that point of view at this point because they haven't. Not everybody's seen the same things. But you don't have to hate them because they haven't. We don't all have to be like the Jewish hierarchy. Let's not blame all the Jews, But the Jewish hierarchy, the people that invented, the Old Testament crap around whatever, the 7th century BC, and then backdated all that stuff to create the Adam and Eve stuff. Let's just say alter previous creation myths and the flood myths, and sure, there have been floods, big floods maybe, but obviously 2344 BC, we don't need to worry about how many camels you can stick on Noah's Ark, okay? The Egyptians lived through it, the Babylonians, the Sumerians, the Chinese, the American Indians. lived through it. They weren't washed away. It's simple history. There's evidence. We don't need these ridiculous arguments with Christians that talk about, how there was evidence of a flood. So what? It didn't happen then. It's a big lie. Or how many animals you can stick on an ark. It's irrelevant because the people survived. They were unaffected by the Jewish fairy tale. 3. The truth and lies are woven together so tightly in Mormonism that it is very deceptive and a good trap for those seeking truth. Have a good day, Dodger. Really a comment with a lot of good points in it, and some from a point of view that just haven't seen some of the things that I've seen. Thank you for your great comment. The Mbru or Mbiru or... You can tell me how to pronounce your name for your next time you comment. But anyway, this was appreciated. There's so many people's comments that I appreciate, and I don't want to turn the video into be super long. Maybe I'll make a part 2 after maybe, another 1 or 2. David Norman, your comments always disappear, and I can't see what they say. I have to go into my email, so I'm not going to do that right now. You make a lot of interesting comments. Some of them are pretty off the wall for most people, but, you know some things that some people don't, among other things. All right. Ron Bryant. Ron always makes good comments. I'm surprised I don't receive a message from Mormon Jesus and make this guy a GA. Oh, we're talking about Scott Gordon. Well, isn't president of Fair Mormon almost a GA, Ron? So they can praise him at General Conference. Oh, they'll probably just send him bonuses through, like, the More Good Foundation or something. He spins it with the best of them. Yes, he does. Anyway, supposed anti-Mormon propaganda equals factual truth. Critical thinking. Mormon prophet praised conman who excels at mind control. Mind control is so much a part of all these big religions because they have to keep you from noticing how they contradict themselves constantly. And if they're guided by an all-knowing, unchanging God, he can't keep changing his gosh darn mind. Gosh darn, that was pretty good, huh? I stayed Mormon PC with that one. Jesus equals pre-existence, brother taskmaster for you to work for you to probably achieve salvation and be a lower regional manager, God. No call-up for you people. Just your own smaller planet sometime in the future. Regional manager God, Heavenly Father equals glorified man God who rules from outer space, the Kolob sector, and sexually assaulted a teenage girl. Need I go on? Yes, very good comments, Ron. Sexually assaulted his own spirit child, Mary, who some people, like maybe Talmud, tried to tell us, well, she's actually one of his wives, and then she was just kind of hanging out with Joseph, her husband, later as a step-husband or whatever the heck we want to call him, husband for time, because that goes perfectly with the Joseph Smith BS, with the sealed for eternity but not for time, or time and eternity, or whatever option you've got on some other dude's wife while he's on a mission, and you want to get in her comfort zone. But yeah, that's I'm thanks for bringing this one up, especially Ron. Sexually assaulted a teenage girl. As we look at the doctrine, and the doctrine as it changes in Mormonism, starting from what we've got in the Book of Mormon, which is totally Christian doctrine, okay, and then it changes in the Book of Mormon. We've got the, Mary was the mother of God, and then we go to Mary as the mother of Son of God, but, she's still like the Virgin Mary and all that kind of stuff, and we've got God the Father and Jesus Christ are one and the same person, as we see in Ether chapter 3, and as we even see in the Joseph Smith translation of the Bible, where he says, Luke chapter 10, what is verse 22, in the KJV, and what's verse 23 in the Joseph Smith, where he says that, Jesus, or the Father reveals it to you, that actually Jesus is the Father, and the Father is Jesus. So, Joe Smith goes like full-on modalism, Trinitarian kind of bull stuff. into the Bible when it wasn't even there. Sorry, Christians that already are into the Trinitarian thing, but I mean, Joseph Smith made it even more Trinitarian. And then he changes it all. So you've got this God. You've got God and Jesus who are one, and they always existed for all eternity, and God created all things through Jesus Christ, who is apparently part of himself in this wacky theology, which we see as far as God creating all things through Jesus Christ, who appears to me to be a different individual in Hebrews chapter 1 and also in Ephesians chapter 3. And we taught that as missionaries. God created all things, all, not some, all things through Jesus Christ. And then we get the King Follett discourse, and we get the Swedenborgian stuff, and says, no, God worked his way up, from some other planet, and was a man. And then we hear, and then of course McConkie tells us, hey, it says that Jesus only does what his Father did, so his Father was also the Savior sacrificed for his world. And he works his way up and has at least one wife, probably many, and has first baby is Jesus. Of course, whoever he was. Mormons decided, and Joseph Smith decided to call him Jehovah. He didn't realize the Catholics made that crap up in like the 13th century. But he was like I said, he was probably drunk too much. He just didn't do his homework. Sometimes he left too many mistakes to see how clueless he was, and have so many anachronisms, linguistic anachronisms in the Book of Abraham, in the Book of Mormon. Good Lord. Anyway, he works his way up, and then he has Jesus as his first child, who obviously created or organized the earth whereupon which we now dwell. But that, people, is not creating everything. That's this world. So is that just further light and knowledge like we get in Freemasonry as we advance in the degrees? It's not just further light and knowledge. It contradicts what we teach as the Word of God in Hebrews chapter 1, verses 1 and 2, and in Ephesians chapter 3. It's not just adding line upon line like they try to tell you at church, people. When it contradicts something, that means the first thing wasn't true. If the second thing is. Of course, neither one of them are true, but assuming that we were getting truth, pretending we were getting truth in our line upon line thing there, we've contradicted, we've proven that the first thing was a stinking lie. And Joseph Smith didn't alter that. He did alter Ephesians chapter 3 slightly, but not in that fashion. It still says that all things are created through Jesus Christ, which completely is contradicted completely by the King Follett discourse, which says man once dwelt on earth and became glorified. So Mormonism exposed right there. It's a done deal. But let's just keep going. There's so much more. Why not throw more dirt upon the grave? Bury the casket. Thanks, Ron. You always make good comments. I love you even if you turn into a Christian, I think. Okay, you're awesome. Next. Really good points. Ron makes a lot of really, really good points on his comments. So many people do, and I feel like I'm going to have to not let this get too long. It says it's 38 minutes. No big deal. It seemed longer because I've done some pauses. John Bystrom. Oh, I missed Kurt. I'll get you, Percat. Okay. All right. The answer to your questions are answered in this video. John Taylor and Willard Richards killed Joseph and Hiram Smith. It's quite an assertion. Brigham Young infiltrated the order and ordered the murder of them. Lucy Mack said Brigham killed her boys. Yes, Lucy Mack did say Brigham killed her boys. I think he wasn't there. Brigham actually said, I wasn't even there. How could I even send a message? To make sure Hosea Stout murdered Samuel Smith with the white powder Joseph Smith and his pals used to murder other people in Nauvoo with. What, you never heard that? Well, watch the videos on, I got 10 of them in there where I'm reading and doing a little commenting on the sworn testimony of Joseph H. Jackson. But he was an apostate. Sorry, he never joined the church. He went over there. He went undercover in Nauvoo just to expose Joseph Smith. And the thing is, a lot of what he says is corroborated by people who had been very faithful in the church. So you get people that hated Joseph Smith, people that loved Joseph Smith or loved Brigham or whatever, you know, Danites. You get it from different angles, and they corroborate on various things, and those are ways that we can verify truth, because you've got coming from different angles and people still give you the same kind of testimony on various points, whether or not they loved or hated these guys. And, you know, it's a geometric principle. So I took a look at that video, and I'm going to watch more of it because that's kind of interesting. Brigham Young definitely was a mass murderer. Joseph Smith, they ran organizations like La Cosa Nostra, you know, La Cosa Nostra. La Cosa, whatever, you know. I'm not so good at Italian. It's very similar. It would be like what, La Cosa Nuestra in Spanish, right? Basically, our cause, the mafia. So they ran a very mob-like organization, as we see in Nauvoo, particularly. They were organized crime, and their front organization was a church, which provided a base of laborers to promote the organization, and income, you know, money, tithing, that sort of a thing, or whatever the hell it happened to be then. Give me all your properties. You know, Joseph Smith pulled that, you know, the Order of Enoch at least once. So it's the same thing the Freemasons do, same thing the other churches do, same thing the governments do. It's a business, you know, and they all have their, you know, they have their children's hospitals and their Shriners hospitals and their St. Jude's and all this philanthropic looking Mormon helping hand stuff to look good, but they're all totally profitable. That's just good PR, and then they can beg for more money and put a cute little child up there and go, look, I was all screwed up and amputated and stuff, but St. Jude's helped me out, so send us millions of dollars. You get enough paying in there, you know, you help, you know, somebody, and you get, you know, probably 3 times as much money coming in on it. You know, that's what they do with the hurricanes and stuff. The LDS Church has it down to a T. They know what they're doing, so you put up a good face, you do something that's good, and behind the scenes, you're screwing everybody over. So that's what Joseph Smith and Brigham Young did. The more you learn about it, the more clear it gets. And if you don't know anything about it, you just think, oh my God, this guy's an anti-Mormon blasphemer. He's evil. He's a minion of Satan. So, oh, that reminds me. Watch some of those videos where I'm talking about the J-dubs and the SDA using the same NLP techniques and stuff, and they all do the same thing. It's Satan telling you not to watch JW.org and go onto those anti-JW sites. You must stay with the Watchtower. You must. You know? SDA does the same darn thing. It's comical to watch these guys, and you're just like, how did I ever believe that stuff? When you see someone else doing it in their religion, that's why I do these mind control videos, because it helps you to notice it, because you're so programmed and conditioned to just go, oh my God, shut that off. That's all from the devil. It's going to lead me to hell if I listen to that stuff. Even if we're examining LDS.org and the Gospel Topics essays. No, Satan has control of him, and my Holy Ghost won't be powerful enough. It's like walking into a bar, and the Holy Ghost will leave me unto mine own self, and he with his cunning ways will lead me astray. All right. That video might be pretty interesting. Thanks, John. Appreciate that. Here's Percat again. Oh my gosh, are you bashing Herman Munster Monson? What a thing to say. Oh, that was your other one. Okay. Herman is in heaven now, where the 2 great spirit brothers of Mormonism are sharing tall tales. I refer, of course, to Mark Hoffman and Joseph Smith. Thank you, Percat. Yes, he's in heaven now, isn't he? I don't think you're buying that. Mouthy Mormon. This is the first article that pops up when one does a search for hapalog blah 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 on Native Americans. Okay, so this person's telling us that we can find a tiny speck of Near Eastern DNA in like some Cherokees or something. And maybe it is from a while back. Oh, does that mean they came with the Book of Mormon, people? And where did they disappear into? Oh, people that came across before Adam existed and weren't washed away by Noah's fake flood. That we didn't even need CNN to, get programmed on by the Christians. So, sorry, Mormonism completely endorses the flood is a factual event, and the Garden of Eden was in Missouri. Yet we've got DNA from Neanderthals, from 39,000 years ago, and people from France and stuff like that. So, take your DNA and stick it where the sun don't shine, like in the Mormon temple. Oh! Salt Lake City. All right. Gosh, we got so many new people here. Because I really wanted to get to Piggy's stuff. When Pigs Fly. He's got some really cool stuff. And actually, so many. We've got really a lot of nice comments here. When should we wrap it up and do a part 2? Pretty soon here? Okay. There's some guy bashing me. Okay. The guy speaks 20 seconds. He's talking about Scott Gordon. And you speak 20 minutes. Why don't you shut up and let the guy finish a complete sentence without you constantly stopping to critique? It's really irritating. Well, I actually responded to him. My response was pretty good. Basically, I said, sorry, your ratio's way off. It's 5-to-1, not like, 60-to-1. And what I'm doing there is I'm critiquing his technique using neurolinguistic programming and apologetic techniques to deceive people and to get them to believe his BS, and also correcting his lies. So Scott Gordon's using a lot of sophisticated technique used to get us to believe that now Freemasonry is just an innocent men's club where guys go drink, have a couple of beers and play cards and shit like that, and give some secret handshakes and scratch their unmentionables or whatever, talk dirty once in a while. And it doesn't have much to do with Mormonism. There's just a couple things in common, and it's, beside the point. And guess what? Watch those 5 videos, because there is so much Luciferian doctrine within Mormonism that comes through Freemasonry, from the Masonry, from the mystery schools, and the endowment, of course, has a lot of Freemasonry that came into it, which is supposed to come directly from God and necessary to give the secret handshakes to the angels who stand as sentinels before you can get in the pearly gates to see St. Peter. So sorry, Scott Gordon. It's a very important part of the Mormon plan of exaltation, and evidently Joseph Smith didn't get it from an angel, he got it in his Freemason meetings. And since Freemasonry is a Luciferian religion, it's just that they bullshit the people at the bottom so that they can be peons and not know what the hell's going on, just like they do in Mormonism and every other religious organization. Doesn't mean that the people at the top don't understand the Luciferian principles. And why would the prophet of the wonderful, pure God need to get secret handshakes from Luciferians in order for you to get into heaven? Think about it, people. All right. So, sorry, Mr. Sean Van Pelt. I appreciate your comment and disagree. So, anyway, you exaggerated. It wasn't 60-to-1 ratio of me talking. It was 5-to-1. It was necessary, because that's what we have to do to make it clear to people, because the whole part of the point is to help unveil what's going on and show how Gordon's good. He's good at what he does. He's a master deceiver. He is a man of many words and speaks much flattery unto the people. Well described in the Book of Mormon. You just have to notice he's on the wrong side, because Mormonism is on the wrong side. You have guys like Korihor that are painted as being evil, but it says that that it wasn't against the law to not believe in ancient Mormonism, be part of the Church of God. You could say what you wanted to, except for they falsely arrest him and they bring him to Alma, who's the chief judge and Mr. Holy Dude, and instead of saying, hey, you're here under false arrest, I'm sorry, I'll make it up to you, I'll give you 100, C9 and Ontai and whatever, and give you, a fresh corn on the cob dinner or something and, you know, sorry for your troubles. No, he just pushes his religion on him and then he curses him because he doesn't believe in the Church of God. So he violates their own laws right there in the Book of Mormon. So much for freedom of religion, so much for free agency. Instead, what do? What do? They say that's the plan of Lucifer, to take away your agency. He doesn't want to give you choices. You fought for those choices, yet every time God gets his way, whether it's with Yahweh or in the Book of Mormon, they have no religious freedom whatsoever. And the people at the top are abusing it. So, check it out. Korihor, he just said, yeah, I do say the things that Korihor said. They are just manipulating you. And unfortunately, Joseph Smith showed that even his Book of Mormon prophets were complete hypocrites. Perry Chronicle says, all very interesting information, but because they can sell it to the people like they do, as sheeple by the first vision hook, line, and buy, as in purchase, buy the first vision hook, line, and sinker. Satan comes in the form of a light bearer. Just saying. Oh, and the Jedi took exception to this. And Jedi, you're such an idiot. Not just because you're on the other side of the coin here, but just because you are. So here's what Jedi says. Jedi quotes Perry Chronicles, who said what I just said. Because they can sell it to the sheeple, they take it for hook, line, and sinker. And then here's what Jedi says. Here's what really happens. Millions of LDS today put Moroni's test to the promise. And that's why they believe in God, because the Holy Spirit told them. And I went ahead and responded to Jedi. He's right. They do. They put it to the test. Or a lot of people do. They get a feeling. They get a feeling that the Book of Mormon's true. But which part of it? It contradicts itself, Jedi. It contradicts the Book of Moses, the inspired version of the Bible. Was the brother of Jared the first guy to see the Lord? As it says in either chapter 3, verse 15, and in 15 and 9, where it says the reason he was because he's the only one that's had enough faith. When we have Enoch moving mountains and rivers and being face to face and hanging out with the Lord like 1,000 years earlier in Moses chapter 7. Oops! Oh, they're both true. They just contradict each other. Jedi, go recharge your lightsaber, dude. I'm out of here. We'll do a part 2. Check out the website, people. We'll set up some chat stuff or some comment stuff so we can have some interchange, because it's good when people get to talk about this stuff. It doesn't have to be just on the same video. All right. Good morning, Idumea. Dodger game out.